Welcome, Rasikas. What a blissful experience it was. Dikshita Dhruvapada, a magical confluence of Dhrupad and Carnatic music. So, first of all, thank you everybody for joining us. And we apologize for the technical difficulties we had the last week, but we are glad that we were able to present it. And we found out that it was Saint Dikshita's birthday a couple of days ago. So I was telling Ram Prasad ji, maybe it was meant to be that Dikshita wanted this to be presented right around his birthday. So, so here we are with the artist and a few panelists to talk about the production. And please feel free to share your comments with us and also your questions for the artist in the chat, live chat box here. What I'll do is begin with a brief introduction of the artists and the panelists. But before I go there, I would like to welcome you all along with Prabha Bala, our past president and one of the founders of Classical Arts Society of Houston, along with also Anuradha Subramanian. She's one of the veteran musicians in the Houston area, much sought after guru, and also a director and been part of Classical Arts Society of Houston for a really long time. So pleasure to have them here along with me in inviting you to this chat session here. So thanks for joining Prabha and Anuradha Auntie. What I'll do is now, first I want to thank not only Sri T.V. Ramprasad ji, but also his brilliant accompanist, Sri T.K.V. Ramanujacharyalu on the violin, Sri H.S. Sudhindra on the mridangam, Sri Giridhar Udupa on the ghatam, and Abhidisha Roy on the tambura. And this brilliant production is dedicated to Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, a celebration of the 75th independence anniversary of India. This recording and the production that you enjoyed would not have been possible if not for the hard work done by Laya Digi Studios Bengaluru and RK Studios Mysuru on the production. And we thank Artspire, Arts Management Company as well. Ranjana Narasimhan, one of our board members, she was key in initiating this dialogue with Sri T.V. Ramprasad ji as we thought about the production. And she unfortunately could not join us here, but definitely our thanks are due to Ranjana. And Ranjana, we miss you here on the chat. We welcome our guests of honor, Mrs. Soumya Rege and her mother, Mrs. Arthi Mishra, who I will introduce in a few minutes here. First off, welcome Sri T.V. Ramprasad ji. Thank you again for everything that you've done for us through this production. And it was such a pleasure working with you and your team. You made this very easy for us. And even though there were difficult times, we just sailed through it through communication. So thank you for making this production possible. And as you saw from the comments here, the audience were really overjoyed with the production. So let's start.
It's a pleasure working with you all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And let me start with a brief introduction of Sri T.V. Ramprasad. His eminence in the world of Carnatic music spans over the last 3 decades through his extensive performing and teaching experiences. He carries forward a rich lineage of his gurus, Padma Bhushan P.S. Narayan Swami, Sangeeta Kalacharya S. Rajam, T.V. Gopalakrishnan, and R.R. Keshavamurthy. He is an empaneled artist of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, ICCR. As the director of E-Ambalam, he pioneered the vision of enabling an online platform for transmission of Indian classical arts to a larger global community. In addition to his professional commitments to music and teaching, a larger side of his pursuits involves deeply engaging drives to educational and social causes at the grassroots level. In 2014, he launched the Life Art Education Project, a K-12 school-based program which made it possible to incorporate music, dance, yoga, and personality development programs to school children as a part of their core curriculum. As of today, e-Ambalam and life art education programs have touched the lives of over 30,000 students in about 25 countries. And I only took a few highlights from his bio, and this just is amazing. So thank you again, GTV Ramprasad ji.
I'd like to point out my Guru, Srimati Mahalakshmi Natarajan. Her mention was left out. She is my first Guru, and I still continue to learn from her. So I just wanted to mention Mahalakshmi Auntie's name.
Sure. Thank you for adding that. And yes, it was a remiss on my part. I only picked a few portions of your bio, like I said. So thank you for adding that information here. I'll also introduce panelists here, Soumya Rege and her mother, Arthi Mishra. Soumya Rege holds a Sangeet Visharad degree from Gandharva Mahavidyalaya Mandal in Pune and has many performances to her credit. She was trained under her mother and guru, Srimati Arthi Mishra, who we are also fortunate to have with us, and Guru Srimati Shruti Sample, who is the founder of Shruti Sangeet School of Music in Houston. So welcome, Soumya. Mrs. Arthi Mishra, she holds Sangeet Visharad and Sangeet Alankar degrees from Gandharva Mahavidyalaya Mandal in Pune, and a Sangeeta Chudamani, which is a PhD in Odissi music from Prachin Kala Kendra, Chandigarh. She was trained under Guru Kundaladi Narayan, Guru G.C. Paluskar, and Guru J.V.S. Rao. She's a top grade artist and A-grade composer and a member of the Central Audition Board at All India Radio. So we really have a very accomplished panel right here with us. And Prabha, you need to unmute yourself if you're speaking. So thank you, Soumya and Mrs. Arthi Mishra, for joining us. So I would like to begin by asking Prabha to say a few words in felicitation of the artists here. So, and Prabha, if you want to unmute before you speak. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it is a real pleasure for me to say these words of felicitation. It has been such a wonderful, mellifluous, and meditative concert. If this was an in-person concert, at this time, the stage would be half the audience in the auditorium would be on stage to express their appreciation for the concert. Or on the other hand, it is possible everybody would be transfixed to their seats because of the meditative and ethereal nature of this concert. Everybody, I'm sure, is 6 inches off the ground right now, waiting to come back to ground. And we may really be just in an auditorium that is in silence, pin drop silence. Anyway, Ram Prasad, I mean, both as a family friend and as a much admired artist, it is my pleasure to offer you these felicitations on behalf of the Classical Arts Society of Houston, its board of directors, and the entire audience that has witnessed this performance of yours. And sincere appreciation also goes, again, repeating Nalini, sincere appreciations to your accompanying artists, Sri Ramanujacharyalu on the violin, Sri H.S. Sudhindra on the mridangam, Sri Giridhar Udupa on the ghatam, and Bidisha Roy on the tanpura. It was almost like all 5 of your artists were one singular musical entity, simply in 5 bodies. Such was the unison of your presentation. And somewhere I remember reading that each of Sri Muthuswami Dikshitar's compositions can be likened to a precious jewel, of which every word in the lyric is a gemstone. It is no exaggeration to say your performance today brought out clearly the jewel-like luster and beauty of these great compositions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your presentation was different because it really incorporated that special Drupad influence under which I understand Muthuswami Dikshidhar composed these particular kritis. So this performance has truly demonstrated the magical confluence of the music of the North through the Drupad nuances and blended with the Carnatic idiom of the music of the South. To me, this is very special because it reiterates what I have felt, that the oneness of classical music of India is there. So it has been one of Classical Art Society's objectives to bridge this gap between Carnatic music and Hindustani music. We really want the classical music of India to be appreciated by everybody who enjoys music. And this is a treasure that we have inherited. And I think all of us should realize the merits of both styles. Though they are different, they are equally enjoyable. So this has been a wonderful production on your part, Ram Prasad. Since I know you well, I'm calling you Ram Prasad and not formally Sri Ram Prasad. And as a offering of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav of Bharat, that is an ongoing celebration until 2023, I think this has been a very fitting offering on your part for both our audiences and to this special celebration that's going on in Bharat. Thank you so much. And I would also like to add a word of appreciation for your technical team that has made this production extraordinary. I thought both visually and in the sound quality, I would not be wrong to say this is probably our best virtual offering. Thank you. And back to the chat. Everybody's excited to talk to you more about your music. So Nalini, take it over. Thank you.
No worries, Prabha. That was such a beautifully put felicitation. And I should add that it's always been Prabha's dream, and she has actually set that vision for us. In bridging the various genres of music. And this really is a dream come true in that sense, because it's really made live through this production. So thank you again. And as I said, now I'd like to invite Auntie Anuradha Subramanian to share her thoughts on her experience of this production and the view from a Carnatic style perspective. Auntie?
Namaskaram. It was a pleasure listening to you. The songs you had selected were most appropriate for this harmonious blending of Carnatic music, Hindustani, Dikshidhar, and Drupad. Jambupate is my all-time favorite of the Panchalinga kritis of Sri Dikshidhar. The Rupaga Vilambam, I know, is very difficult for a lot of my students. Yet, they appreciate the beauty of the slow pace, because that's the way it should be sung. It cannot be sung as a regular Rupakatalam kriti. And my two gurus, my mother, Srimati Savitri Satyamurthy, and Dr. S. Ramanathan, used to say, when you sing the Ganga Kaveri Yamuna, you have to feel the rivers flowing. That is how it's supposed to be sung. That is how Sri Dikshidhar would have visualized it. And unless you can experience it, you cannot have the audience feel it too. And in that sense, you really brought through and that emotion that he must have felt when he composed this kirtanam. And Neerajakshi Kamakshi, of course, and the one in Jujavanti, all of those kirtanams, like I mentioned earlier, were most appropriate for doing the two styles in harmony. And in conclusion, I would just like to say it takes years of practice to master one style of music. And you have done a stupendous job of doing both, of mastering both styles and putting them together, presenting them in a very unique and beautiful manner. And for that, we are very grateful to you. Namaskaram. Truly our privilege to have listened to you today. Thank you.
I believe
In fact, I would just like to, Anuradha Auntie, if I could call you, I just would like to mention that I am not an expert, I'm not a master of Drupad. I have heard a lot of Drupad music and I've been very fascinated by Drupad. But two months I worked on this. I really worked on trying to shape my music, but I kept the composition as a starting point and then started working as to how he has interpreted the music in the composition into the exposition. So I definitely just thought of presenting the music in through his eyes, through Dikshitar's eyes. So that way, I wouldn't say a purist of Drupad, the Rasika or a Drupad listener wouldn't find this very, very Drupad, nor a Carnatic person, Rasika would find this very Carnatic, or a Khayal, a person who listens to Khayal music would find this very Khayal-like. But nevertheless, I believed, first of all, in satisfying my own self. And I think this is good music. As Prabha was putting it, our music is one. You don't, when you close your eyes, ultimately, if you can experience bliss, that is good music. So we don't have to put a label as to Drupad or Carnatic or whatever. So I just wanted to clarify, I'm not an exponent of Drupad, but I did my best, that's all.
Well, you did a beautiful job. You did a beautiful job. And like, our Swamiji says, initially, we all, when we start out doing something, we have what is called conscious incompetence, because we start out with incompetence and we are conscious of it. Then comes the conscious competence when you understand and you start to place the notes in the proper places, or the paintbrush, when you start painting, things fall into place. And then with a lot of practice, you get to the stage of unconscious competence, which means, in Tamil, they say anayasama, effortlessly. Effortlessly, you're able to sing whatever you want to sing. Your voice does whatever it wants to, because you have that unconscious competence, because you've understood the ragam, you've understood the beauty of the ragam, the salient features. So what I meant was, you may not have mastered Drupad style, but you certainly understood what it is. And you used it beautifully to bring it out in the kritis composed by Muthuswami Dikshita. And it was a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you.
Well said, Anuradha. Well said.
Thank you, Anu Auntie. I experienced a little bit of internet glitch on my end. I don't know if anybody else did, but I'm back here. So hopefully it's all going okay. So again, thanks, Auntie, for really providing that insight and your perspective. And very well articulated, as always. Anuradha auntie is known for that. So thank you for that. Now we want to move on to Sambhya and Mrs. Arthi. Thank you again for taking the time to join with us and to provide your valuable insights into how you enjoyed and experienced this production of Sri T.V. Ramprasadji and his team. So over to you for your comments.
I, for one, am very eager to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. First of all, I want to thank Vidwan T.V. Ramprasadji for his excellent performance. It was a treat and a rare opportunity for us to listen to this type of, for want of a better word, fusion of the North Indian classical style, Hindustani classical style, and the Carnatic style. Forgive me if I keep calling you Pandit Ramprasadji. I am used to the word Pandit instead of Vidwan, but I recognize that you're Vidwan Ramprasadji. Other people have tried using the two styles, and I have heard some of those compositions, but it is rare when the fusion is so seamlessly done and with so much care. In every, you sang 4 pieces, and in every piece, the Drupad style really came through, and the Vilambit style of Khyal really came through, as well as the Carnatic style, the Drupad style of Tom Nom, the Sargam, and all those elements of the Drupad style. They came through very well, and also the Carnatic style. And then it was so unusual to hear a Khyal or Drupad style of music being sung, accompanied by Tisra Jati Ektali on Mridangam. That was the most unusual thing that I actually heard. And that was done so well and so seamlessly. That is credit to you, sir, for putting it all together so seamlessly and for making it, presenting it to the point where North Indian music lovers, Hindustani classical music lovers would find relatable items, would enjoy it as much as Carnatic music lovers. That is the true result of what you have accomplished here. All the rags that you selected lend themselves equally well to both Hindustani classical style and Carnatic style. I mean, it is so easy to recognize the notes. It is so easy to recognize not just the notes. The rag is not just made up of notes, but also at least in Hindustani classical music, it's the arrangement of the notes, the flow, the signature of the rag. Basically, the signature of each rag came through so well. Because you can put the notes together and it may not sound like the rag, but it's the essence of the rag came through. I'm going to ask my mother to say a couple of words because she is the real expert in the technical aspects of Hindustani classical as well as Carnatic.
Hello, good evening, everybody. And in my 84 years of life, I heard the first time somebody who sang a Drupad in this Dhima Rupak. My ears are not used to listen to any Drupad other than Chautal. So I was surprised and I find it very nice, very well done in a way that you have done the whole thing. And I appreciated the best thing is that you have kept intact the Tom Nom part of the Drupad and the vibration or Andolan or Gamak. The essence of Drupad is Gamak. The way you have represented all the gamaks, I was surprised. You have already expressed the Andolita gamak, Labita gamak, and especially I appreciate your Humpita gamak. That is the closing your mouth and doing the gamak. That also I appreciate because of late our Drupad singers left that Humpita gamak style. you have touched all this good style of this Andulita, Plavita, and Gumpita. And also you have taken care to represent the South Indian style of Spurita Gamak, Kampita Gamak, Kunchita Gamak, and Tripucha Gamak. All this Gamak also you have represented. After a long time, I have heard this. I have not ever heard this two type of Gamaks represented by somebody so skillfully and in proper place. It was never out of place, and I enjoyed it. This experience is a good experience for me in all my life. I haven't heard this type of fusion. This is the first time I'm hearing this type of fusion, and your effort should be praised. You have done a good job of accepting and mixing both the songs and mixing both the styles in such a way that we don't feel that he is imposing this. And one more thing I must tell you, I myself is a classical, North Indian classical singer and all that, but I am very much fascinated about Muthuswami Dikshitar's compositions. Lot of that I have heard, and myself I am very curious about his ragas and compositions. And of late, I have taken a little curiosity for few ragas that he has mentioned. One of them is Binadhari, one of them is Amruta Varshini. And I am starting to compose two of the small North Indian Drut in Bandis in Trital. Only in Trital, in those ragas, which this raga fascinated me very much. And in Binadhari, we can sing Saraswati Stuti. In Amruta Varshini, I can sing Durga Stuti. That also fascinated me. And for all that, I must appreciate, I must encourage you to go on doing this more and more so that people will come to know that these two styles of music and their essence are not so different from each other. You can make them together, we can make them separate, we can blend them, and we can make it more palatable to all of our audience. Thank you very much.
One last thing. Vidwanji, you have a fantastic voice. The voice itself is a pleasure to listen to. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. I mean, I was just blown away by your comments, and I haven't heard these ladies before, and such a pleasure to know that we have such talent and such depth in the music in the Houston area. And thanks to Prabha and her friends for introducing them here. And thank you so much for your kind
The
words.
enthusiasm, ma'am, which you show at your age is something very astounding. Thank you for
very
your
much
blessings.
So over to you, Sri T.V. Ramprasadji. I'm sure everybody wants to hear you speak about the experience of the production, right? I mean, now that we witness it, it sounds, I mean, it was great, but there's so much work that has gone on from the ideation to how this came together, and the care that you took in every step, making sure the audio and the visual portion also gave that holistic experience for the Rasika. So we would like for you to speak a little bit about the production itself.
Yeah, so let me first of all go back to the first discussion we had when you all suggested from the Classical Art Society of Houston that we should have a Dikshitar concept. So that is a starting point for this entire journey. And you remember I was mentioning that since I come from a school directly leading up to Dikshitar, Muthuswami Dikshitar, Subbarama Dikshitar, his nephew, and then Ambi Dikshitar after his son, and then S. Rajam, my guru. And that's how S. Rajam sir initiated me into the beauty of Muthuswami Dikshitar's compositions. The beauty of Shuddha Swara singing, the beauty of his Vivadi Raga handling, the way he handled Vivadis. The Veena style of Gamakas, the way the way Vainikas handle Gamakas, the subtleties are different. So that can be seen very much in Dikshitar's compositions. So much so that just to Prabha was mentioning that time that I used to experience by just singing Muthuswami Dikshitar's composition, which most of them are in Vilambakala, the slow speed. By just singing his composition, that itself satiates your mind. You feel so. I mean, you don't have to sing alap or you don't have to sing. Just by singing his composition itself, the raga is there, and the experience is there. So that is the power of the man's compositions. The beauty, the bhava, the esoteric, because he was also an expert in tantra and Sri Vidya Upasaka. So he used a lot of bija mantras, which are embedded within the composition. So each of his compositions, when we sing, it used to be very powerful if it's sung properly. It can charge the singer and also the listener. So this was a good starting point, and during that discussion, Prabha came up with the suggestion that why don't we have instead of the regular Dikshitar compositions, can we highlight the North Indian aspect of Dikshitar's repertoire? So that is a starting point where I started thinking, why not? Let me do this, because I was in 2004, I was interacting with Dr. V.V. Srivatsa, very revered scholar in music, also the secretary of Music Academy at that time. And he was authority in Sanskrit and Dikshitar's compositions. So he was the first person to introduce me to Ramkali. And so that's how I sort of got that Drupad sort of listening to that rendition and learning that composition from him. So I thought, why not do a concert which reflects Dikshitar's influence when he was in Varanasi. He was influenced by the Betia Gharana of Drupad. So why not highlight that aspect? Because Dikshitar was very much, I wouldn't say, there are two ways of the Dhruvapada or the Drupad tradition is more ancient than what we call the Hindustani tradition currently. Correct me, ma'am, if I am, but I'm just trying to share something. So in the Drupad tradition started in the late 15th century, in 1490s, under Maharaja Man Singh Tomar in Gwalior. So during that time, the Drupad tradition started, and it was nurtured by the kings and also by the Muslim, the Mughal rulers Akbar and Shahjahan. That is, I think, by the end of 1500s to 1600s, it really flourished under their patronage. And Tansen was one of the very famous Drupadiyas. So basically, the Drupad tradition, they say, is a masculine tradition, whereas the Khayal singing, which came much later in 1700s, is more feminine. They say it has Gajagati. That is, it's very, very, like it moves like an elephant, very slow, very, Gambhira. The Karunya Rasa and Shanta Rasa is Pradhana in Drupad. So basically, Dikshitar was fascinated by that, and his compositions just highlight that, because most, as ma'am was telling, that Drupad compositions are mostly found in Chautala. It's a structure of 12 beats, 12 aksharas, basically. 1, 2, 3. That's Vilamba Rupaka, what we say is 1, 2. So basically, this is totally 12. So that is exactly Chautal, and that's how the Drupad compositions, most of the Drupad compositions are in Chautal. And Dikshitar was the first person at that time because most of the compositions in Carnatic music at that time were in Adi Tala, Rupaka Tala. There were the Suradi Sapta Talas, but the Vilamba Rupaka Tala was introduced by Dikshita in that style because of his influence of Drupad. So it was a very fascinating thought for me to, why not try to explore that, try to present a concert of only compositions of Dikshita influenced by Drupad. Now, having chosen that, it is definitely, I have listened to Drupad. I was also interacting with my own sister, Sujata. Her father-in-law was Pandit Harindra, a very respected vocalist and teacher in the Gwalior Gharana. So basically, I have had a lot of opportunities to sit down with him and listen to him and take some tips from him when I was very young. I've listened to a lot of the Dagar brothers, the Gundecha brothers, Uday Bhavalkar. So I have been influenced by Drupad, but to start this project, it was a little challenging because the challenges which I faced, I will tell you, because it is something which is needs to be shared. In Carnatic music, when we take any alap, generally there is a lot of faster movement. For example, suppose we take Kalyani. First, we will give a flash of the raga just to introduce the raga. So we don't start we don't do this in Carnatic music. So for me, when I started exploring this in the Drupad tradition, initially it was to be so challenging to get under the skin of the raga, because our mind automatically tries to make faster movements, but to just be in that this thing of trying to hold the few notes and try to expand the raga and get the beauty of the raga within those limited movements itself was a challenge for me. So I used to pray every day, because sometimes I used to feel Yamuna Kalani is not happening, or Ramkali is not happening, or so I used to pray to the Raga Devata. Oh my, I really need this to manifest. So that was the initial thing, but I think I came out of that, and as Anuradha Aunty was telling, it's unconscious.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, unconscious.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah. So Anayasam, she told, no, that thing happened. It clicked. Suddenly something clicked, and then, and also the challenge which we have in Drupad. Correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am. In Khayal also you have faster movements, and the sthai, you move between the Madhya sthai and the lower octave, middle octave, much quicker than Drupad. Drupad, the movement is very slow. So for us to sing, when we sing Drupad, when I started singing, I had to make sure I eat right. I do sufficient pranayama, exercise. I had to keep calm. Mostly I did pranayama because see, when I'm singing this, my voice should not shake. I have to be exactly on Shruti. Even when I'm on Shruti, it should not flutter. It has to be stable. So this requires a lot of breathing, sing, and the body has to be in your control. Body and mind control has to be there. So these were the challenges which I faced, but I think I was able to get over this very quickly. And
we could not have said anything from the production that we watched, and I'm so glad you're sharing this, because for music students, I think, as they are aspiring to be musicians, to understand what it's a holistic thing, and the amount of effort that you put into this, and it's a holistic experience in terms of presenting.
From the time you all spoke to me, this for the students of music. This is from the time you all spoke to me, this was constantly churning in my mind. So I used to, and the challenge is, okay, Ramkali I have to practice in the morning, then I have to practice something in the evening, then Hindola in the night. So I can't sing. But anyway, ultimately, when we sing, we perform. You all are going to listen to it in the morning. Some people are going to listen in the night. Some, I don't know, times zones are so sing. But anyway, whatever it is a challenge to sing those things at the particular time. But practicing that, being able to, whenever I drive, I just used to put on Drupad. So the 2 months, I was constantly only working on this. And every day was a learning experience. So as I told you, though I may be in my 50s, I'm still a very, very ardent student. I learned from my first teacher, Mahalakshmi Auntie. She helped me with Jambu Pate and some nuances in that, and Neerajakshi Kamakshi. So the process of learning is never a so I continuously worked on that thought as to how we should present, what should we present. Now, when you're talking about Manodharma, if the students of music would have listened to it, the swara, if I put swara or neraval or alap, it was appropriate for that particular composition, for that particular genre. I sang the alap. The neraval was not done in the normal, three speeds in Carnatic we do, but here I selected the words and the way of putting neraval so that the Hindustani aspect also could be little sort of, there's always a repetition of 3 times when they do to sort of come to end of any particular piece. So the sort of idea of Hindustani elaboration of neraval was there. Even in the swara, it is not that and everything is not that kanaku or the thing. The kanaku, what we used also had an appropriateness to the lyric, to the style. So everything has to be thought of. You cannot just, tell, okay, I know this thing and I know that I can put everything together and just quickly work on something and just, so yeah, you told me about the production. I could have done this in a normal studio and I could have just be done with it, but they would have taken care of everything and we could have in very simple manner, we could have finished it. But I had conceived it in a particular way where I thought that these ragas, the beauty of that. Now, when I sang Ramkali, it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon because the first Ramkali which he sang, the lighting, they had spoiled it. It was beautiful. The first take was extra, very nice in the morning, but the lighting was spoiled. So then we had to again retake it. They had to figure out the lighting, and then 1 o'clock we started singing Ramkali. But the beauty of the lighting was such that, and they had put that smoke, Sambrani smoke, that created an early morning effect. Wow. I was in the morning. I was there in the morning. It was 1 o'clock. I felt I was early. It was early morning. So
I wish we had an opportunity to experience through our nose too. That's the only sense that is not.
Yeah. So
that
basically,
should be another extension of technology that also provides fragrance, visuals, and auditory and fragrance. Yes. But anyway, my question was, when you chose, are the lighting and the colors, are they in any way related to any ragas or any such?
Yes. Yes. So basically the mood itself, Ramkali itself is a morning raga. So if you see that, actually what lighting ultimately came on there was still not what I had thought. there was a mess up, but anyway, we just had to live with it.
Don't
But,
talk about mess ups.
So
We want this to be only perfect, which it was for us.
no, but Ramkali, I wanted it to be a sunrise to be there. So basically, a sunrise. It is early morning things where the sunrise and the mood is just there. So the early morning colors and the early morning thing, right from darkness to when it just becomes bright and the sun rays come in. That was what was conceived. So that is the colors which we used for the first Ramkali. For Jambu Pate, it is all about water, element water. So I wanted the water effect to be predominant. So that was what was there in that item. There was no, the lighting also was sort of synced with the water element. In fact, for Akhilandeshwari, it is an evening, Jai Jayavanti or Vijayavanti is a evening raga where when the sun is setting, and that is a sort of colors and mood we wanted to create. And finally, Malkons or Hindola is, you can imagine beautiful full moon sing, the pitch dark. There's only a moon, full moon. Yeah, so if that is there, that is a sort of mood which that should be enjoyed. So that's these light.
Very multi-layered production. You had many thoughts going
especially
into
when the water was flowing in the background. It was just mesmerizing. It really brought us, the experience was totally elevated, the multi-dimensional facet that you brought to it. So
Nalini,
thank
are
you
there
for
any
really
audience
being very
questions that have come
Yes, I'm going there. I'm going there. So actually there was so if I can ask the question, there was a question from the audience.
Soumya had something to say. Samya's.
Yes, so if can I go to the question?
No, Samya's mom has something to say.
Okay, sure.
I appreciate your sustaining in that one note, which I remember that sustenance should be enough to have that breath in your chest. So I remember one small thing, a small story that Swami Haridas, when he was composing his Drupads in Brajbhasa and in Vrindavan, he refused Tansem as to take as his disciple because he can't sustain the note for 3 minutes together. So he sent him back 3 times to go and practice and come back. That was the story when I heard when I was a kid. So besides, regarding the classical music's, Hindustani music's time and mood, there is a Samay Chakra that is divided and for the whole night from 12 o'clock in the night to 12 o'clock in the night. That Samay Chakra includes at what time you should sing particular raga, because the mood and the current and the feeling of that raga tends to that particular time. Like we sing Vrindavani Sharang at 3 o'clock in the day, like that. And I don't want to extend anymore. I just want to say this. Samay Chakra means you have to sing the rag relating to the mood and the signature tune of the rag to the time.
That's why the light effect.
That is the light
really
effect.
helped.
And that think of the day at that particular hour really helps to boost your morality.
And the Samrani, I think, is a great idea because it truly helps you remember the morning. And
but actually, it's not good for singing. Once they release that, the voice, sometimes it was troubling me. But anyway, that is better than the smoke machine. If you put a smoke machine, then it actually chokes you. It chokes you. So.
Yeah, that's chemical.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that view on
Samay Chakra.
Arthi. Yeah. So there's a question in the audience was that as they really appreciate how you talked about, your thought process and how you prepared yourself, and also the history of North Indian music. One of the questions was, so what songs did you think of that didn't necessarily make the list of what you presented as you were preparing for the concert? Yeah, basically, there are some very beautiful songs in Vrindavana Saranga, Saundara Rajam. There is Swaminathena.
Rangapuramihara. Then there is in Hamir Kalyani, you have Parimala Ranganatham. In Maruva, you have Maruvakadi Malini. So the Shubha Bantwarali, Sri Satyanarayanam. Am I missing out? Yeah, so some of these compositions, there are a lot of other things, but these are actually quite the signature Drupad sort of compositions.
Gotcha.
So
During a concert
on
visit
that
by the
note, in the
Gunditcha
Vrindavana
brothers,
Saranga, that's sorry, Prabha. Did you have?
no, I was just going to mention that during a concert visit by the Gundecha brothers here in Houston, they sang Ardhanarishwara as a Drupad composition.
Kumadakriya, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so sorry, Soumya and her mom had to take a break, but Soumya will be back. There she is. So we really, just to pause here for a second and thank Mrs. Arthi for joining us. She has to leave and before we end. So thank you so much for joining us and for blessing us and for your felicitation of the artist.
Thank you.
So on the note of Vrindavana Saranga, Soundararajam is one of my favorites. And you mentioned also Rangapuramihara. So just want to hear from you how your interpretation would have been if you had to have presented that today, if you can sort of do a little bit of a demonstration.
I should say that Soundararajam, I do not know, but Rangapuramihara, I am. So I can just, so basically the composition goes like this. Rangapuramihara Shri Rangapuramihara Jaya Kodalda Ramavathara Raghuvira Shri Ranga. So you see, so this is, I mean, I'm going a little fast now because in a short capsule I will tell you, but if you're going to do a Drupad exposition, it would be much more gradual and but this is how the mood of the Raga, Vrindavana Saranga, because a lot of compositions of his in Drupad style are in this Raga.
Thank you so much for showcasing that for us. And I think we are almost close to our time. And if there are, would like to invite Mrs. Soumya to share any closing remarks here from her end. And then we go to Prabha.
All I have to say is this needs to continue. Prabha, Nalini, all of you, this needs to continue because this is something new for me, at least. This fusion of these two styles, it is the idea is not new, but this way of fusing, this style of the treatment that has been done to both styles, that is new and that is so seamless that it needs to continue. It needs to be brought to a broader audience and it needs to get more recognition.
Yes.
And we have to give all the credit to Vidwan Ramprasad, all the credit for making this happen.
And
Thank you so much. It's pioneering work, and I love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Soumya. And Ram Prasad ji, would you like to share anything with the audience as your closing remarks from your end?
I would like to say that about the artists who shared the stage with me and how we worked. They are all great artists. Sri Ramanujacharlu is a very senior violinist, and basically we have played a lot of concerts together earlier, but everything was in the Carnatic style. So basically, we don't even sing. He just lands up, and on the stage we just sing. Anyway, he always has a good practice of trying to understand what you're going to sing, and he always likes to be in sync. So gets to know, and if there are compositions which he doesn't know, he'll take notations and try to learn it. The sincerity is there in Ramanujacharlu sir. So this being a Drupad style presentation, I not want them to be taken aback, because with how I'm going to start an alap and what my expectation in terms of how they should accompany. I not want there to be a mismatch in all that. So I had earlier, within I think about 15-20 days back, I had sent them the notations. I sang and sent them the notations, everyone, even the mridangists, and he came home one day and stayed with me one day before. He stays in Trichy. So he came and stayed with me, and we had 2 rehearsals just to understand how he should accompany.
Oh, wow.
See, because you can't be all over playing because it just requires, you need to lay off and just let the music be, just come in where is required. So at one point I made him start the Carnatic tradition.
Yes.
I took over the
Yes,
Drupad.
Yes,
So
that was very nicely done.
yeah. So he has accompanied so sensitively, so beautifully. He has learned every item, and he has come very sincerely. Such a senior man, but the sincerity in work, the culture is something to be really appreciated. Again, H.S. Sudhindra, I need to talk about him. A wonderfully sensitive mridangist. Initially, if we saw the way the strokes he gave, the tekas were like the Pakhavaj tekas for the Ramkali. And again, we sat down once before, because he needed to understand these compositions and the pace and how to accompany and what is my expectation. And I think on the stage, we were just one unit, as you said. We did not know there were so many problems, because lighting was not okay. Sound adjusting took some time. We are all hungry. 1 o'clock, we started the first item. The second item, we wanted to finish at 2:30. We are all hungry. So Bidisha had got some rasgullas from Calcutta. So she gave us rasgullas, and we did the Yamuna Kalyani in that empty stomach. We finished at only 3:30. And then after that, we did the next half after the lunch. So many vagaries, but still, we were one unit. Giridhar Udupa also very sensitive Ghatam player. So I'd like to thank Ramanujacharlu, Sir Sudhindra, H.S. Sudhindra, and Giridhar Udupa, and Bidisha, because Bidisha has been instrumental in all the ideas. I used to bounce it off with her, and she has been throughout this production. And so my wife Indra, she took care of the lighting. My son was there. So it was a support from all sides which made this happen. So I'd like to thank each and every one, my wife, my son, Vidisha, Artspire, who helped me in promotion. And it was a teamwork ultimately. The video production quality was very high. These people stay in Mysore. So they came with 3 cameras. They came here. It was 3 camera setup. And I had to go there and sit down and sing on 2 separate days to do the final mastering. And
the video was really very high, because I remember seeing a chat comment which said it looks like they are there in person in your room.
And Pramad Kiran is a very senior musician, and he runs a place called a wonderful studio called Laya Digi Studio. He's one of the best sound recordists in Bangalore, in India, I would say. And he especially, I mean, got the entire hardware for, he just took the auditorium, but the entire thing was fitted into that. So the sound management was by Pramath. That's why the quality was like a stereo, I mean,
Super.
high quality studio recording. So I'd like to thank the entire team, that is Pramath's team, Nagaraja, who did the lighting design, and Ravi Shankar and Suraj, who did the thing. So it's a team effort. That's all I can say.
It's
And
really
thank you.
worthwhile taking this time to thank them. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Truly, thanks from classical arts as well to each and every one of them.
Yeah. Anything else? I don't see Anu auntie here, but
I think she
Prabha, do
had to maybe go for classes.
Okay.
Saturday
Okay.
being for most teachers,
Yeah.
this is
Okay.
also their class day. So she
Well, on
must
that note, I would really like to thank again TV Ramprasadji, Sambhya, and all our Rasikas. Without you, all of this is not possible. So thank you to all our donors and underwriters and sponsors. And we have started the YouTube channel platform through this program. And please do subscribe, and we hope to bring more such unique and wonderful presentations to you as we continue into the year. And thank you again, and have a blessed weekend. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.